apologetics must be a part of church discipleship.
That's why morality is relative in Americans throughout the West today, because man now determines truth.
And I believe that that's why the nation is in the state it's in, because they don't know the Word of God, and because the church has failed, in a sense, to hold forth the Word of God in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation.
Welcome to Heritage of Truth. Today my guest is Hettie Brittz. Did I say it correctly?
Yes, you did. You did very well, thank you.
Well, you're from South Africa.
That's right.
That's so exciting that you came all the way here to be with us. Her book is called Growing Kids with Character, Nurturing Your Child's Potential, Purpose, and Passion. So do you consider yourself an expert in childbearing now?
We all are before we have kids, aren't we? Yes. By watching everybody else and knowing how they should be doing it. So no, I will never claim that title in my life. But I'm definitely passionate about understanding kids, helping moms understand themselves, and getting these relationships going, because so many of the mother-child relationships are stuck, and also father-child relationships, and getting them unstuck and understanding one another, I guess is...
Well, what are the keys to getting these relationships unstuck?
Well, I think starting with the knowledge that God is the designer of these natures and these temperaments, these personalities, and that He has not accidentally given the wrong child to the wrong parent, even though it feels that way sometimes. He has a very beautiful plan in combining us with our kids, and that He takes great pleasure in allowing those relationships to be our sanctification, because it's hard. It's hard when the temperaments clash. But when we understand this is all for a good cause, and this is shaping me, this is shaping my child, then it becomes something we can manage.
You talk about trees, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, my first encounter with temperament was very similar to anybody who read some older literature and read about the sanguine and I didn't like being called melancholy. I felt, no, there's more to me than my occasional dark days. I wanted a life-giving way to describe somebody who's dynamic and has potential to grow. And that's, to me, that's what a tree is. So I kind of matched tree types to the personalities in a way that gives it a little bit of humor and a little bit of creativity. So for the very feisty personality types, I picked a rose bush, because you have the flowers that shows that achievement, that first prize rosette that's pinned to the chest, because they're the ones who want to be number one. But also the thorns, because these are those prickly kids who are very confrontational occasionally. They want to be the boss, and if you don't want to comply, then it's a little bit of a fight. So that's the first one. And then the pine trees are these very laid-back, peace-loving kids. You know how you step into a pine forest and the smell just kind of puts you down on the picnic blanket and you need to take a break? They're like this. These kids are actually on a break. And parents can feel that. Yes. When parents try and get them to school on time or get them out of the bathtub, they will know what I'm talking about.
The more you try to rush them, the slower they get.
You're so right, because when you picture a pine tree, when it's about this tall, it has a taproot that's all the way into the floor. Very stubborn and difficult to move, but in a quiet sort of way, where these rose bushes that I just described are stubborn in a very loud way and confrontational way. These kids just get, the pine trees just go stiff and see if you can move me. They're not very compliant. But then the compliant type of kids I call the boxwoods, because when you take a boxwood shrub or a tree, you can prune it into a little lollipop tree. You can make any artful design out of this. And these are those kids who are so teachable and so trainable. When we have them as a first baby, we think we're fantastic, because they do everything by the book. We get all done, and we think, this is easy. Why is everybody struggling? And then God inevitably gives us a palm tree next, or one of these rose bushes. Now, the palm trees are completely out of the box. They are routine breakers, box breakers, and they break a lot of other things too. Not because they're difficult or destructive, but because they're fearless and adventurous and outgoing and need to see the world and influence people. They are the ones who could have written that book. Wow. So when we have all of those in one house, it gets
So what do you find clashes the most? Parents and children who are alike or different?
For pine tree parents, they get along very, very well with kids who are similar. So they like the child who is slow moving, soft spoken, and that works very well for them. But 2 rose bushes, lots and lots of conflict because I want to be the boss, you want to be the boss, and we have a power struggle that can go on for 22 years. And that is speaking from experience with my mom and me both having rose and boxwood in our combination. Mm-hmm. Now, boxwood means this is the right shape. You know, boxwoods are also sometimes pruned into these very square hedges, so they like the boundaries. So if you have a boxwood parent who says, this is exactly the right way to do it, and the boxwood child says, no, this is exactly the right way to do it, then there's also going to be a little bit of a thing. And then the 2 palm trees who both like sun and fun, they're going to get along just great. It's just not fair. But for them, you know, you can imagine if you have this really positive sunshine mom who wants to have fun and want kids to experience things, and she has a pine tree child who'd rather not participate, watch from the sideline, be quiet. That can be hard for her to see her child not engage with life and not go for it. Yes, I think all of them have their challenges with similarities and differences.
So your book will help them to deal with these similarities and differences.
Yes, because we dig deep into every tree type and unpack how God shapes their heart, how He speaks to each tree type, and how we can learn from that to speak to our kids, how they learn. But then right at the end, there's a hybrid chapter, and it talks about the combinations. And then what if I'm a rose and you're a boxwood? What if mom is a boxwood and child's a palm tree? So we go through each one of those possible combinations, and there are pros and cons to them, and moms will get the practical tips right there.
Do you have any stories of how you've been able to help somebody with this book?
Yes, this is the first US edition, but it has been in print in South Africa since 2005. Okay. So we have helped literally thousands of families. And I don't think a week goes by that somebody doesn't say, oh, when I heard palm tree, I understood. Now I know my child is not wild. I was going to give my child medication. Now I know she's supposed to have a short attention span because God made her to think out of the box, to look at something and see it's not the solution, to immediately move on to a possible other solution. This has helped me greatly. Mm-hmm. So we do get such feedback of parents. Just, it's almost a sigh of relief that they are normal and that their kids are normal. It's permission to be who God designed us to be.
That's one of the things I think people forget. We live in this expert society where they always go to the experts because the children aren't fitting a norm.
Oh,
who determines
right.
the norm anyway?
Yes.
Because God made us all different. We're all unique. I think this is a great idea. I'm so glad you wrote this book, and I can't wait to read it. Do you have any encouragement for parents out there who are struggling, especially if they have children who have been diagnosed as like ADD or ADHD?
I love that we just put that on the table because that's a big thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is.
We have the diagnosis floating around in our family, and my daughter is a pine tree. She's now 19 and ready to go to college, but she's almost 100% pine. That means if we don't move her, she'll sit in one space all day long and be completely content and be happy. Now, you look at a child like that and you go, where's your drive? So the experts did look at her and say, we need to get you on medication so that you can focus, work faster, because she has this very slow pace. Mm-hmm. Now, she did comply, and we had her on medication during her exam times to help her get through a paper in time, but she does not need that to function in the full calling that God has for her as a worship leader. Mm-hmm. But we had to fight that battle of the system is going to require of you to function in a particular way. Mm-hmm. But she knows very well and very clearly that there is nothing wrong with her. She needs a little bit of speed when she works, and that's that. But my son, on the other hand, you look at a child who's completely out of the box and they're moving, and you can say, oh, the child's just a palm tree. But you know what? If that palm tree is not happy, if he's not the center of attention and he's not a popular child and he doesn't get along with others and he falls behind in schoolwork, then maybe there's more going on than just temperament. Mm-hmm. Then we can look a little bit deeper. I started my career as a speech therapist and audiologist, and our practice specialized in children with learning disabilities. And to this day, I do think, understanding temperament, but also understanding the realities of some difficulties, those two are very important to understand as two separate issues influencing one another. But when your child's personality and the way they function feels disconnected, then we can ask the experts if there is something brewing. But to have these beautiful, unique personalities is just a joy to see unfold when we start embracing instead of trying to change those.
When a parent sees a child who seems to be struggling, but they can't get them to communicate with them what's going on in their heads. I was really bad about communicating with my parents. They did not know what was going on in my head. How can parents help the children to open up?
Well, each child has their own dialect. When we think about a palm trees cannot talk if you just sit them down like this and you look them square in the face and you have your little list. It feels like an interrogation to them. They want to be talking while you touch them and while you play with them. So fun and play is their language. And then their mouths open up and everything comes out. The pine tree kids are even worse when they're under two eyes. So we joke and say you communicate with them via the rear view mirror, because they want to be with you, but they don't necessarily want the eye contact. It's a little threatening. And we don't ask questions, we make statements. So if you were a pine tree and you got in the car after school, I'd go, Jeannie, I bet you had a good day. That's so different to, tell me all about your day, which makes a pine tree shut down. It does feel like pressure. And the why question is completely forbidden with the pine tree. Like, why did you not do this? Why did you not? You're not going to get an answer. The rosebush likes very straight up communication. So with a rosebush kid, you ask questions, you can even confront. They prefer that, because if you are too sweet to a rosebush, they get annoyed. So I've seen these, these really sweet moms with the rosebush kids at the school gate, and the rosebush would go, I'm not going to school. And then the mom goes down, to his level like we're taught. And she goes, sweetie, it's just 4 hours. Mommy will be back. And you can see that child's anger, and thorns are coming out. And I know that child wants to actually put his teeth in his mom's jugular, because he's like, don't be pathetic, don't nag me, don't use that sweet voice. They can't stand it. So with them, you don't get anything unless you're very grown up about it. You speak to them like they're a little older than they really are. And don't always take the bait, because if you tell them, sorry, you're going to go take a bath, and they go, no, then you can say, well, I guess you've chosen not to have a story tonight. So very straight confrontation. You don't budge, you don't melt when they throw their anger bomb at you.
Right.
And then the boxwoods are so sensitive. Their perfectionist nature makes them look all together, but on the inside they are pretty sensitive. So we count our words, we make sure we are calm when we speak. We speak to them the way God spoke to Moses. He got his attention first with the burning bush, and then he identified himself, and he identified with Moses' heart. Moses was concerned about his people. That was the first thing God said to him is, I've heard the cry of my people. So he's saying, Moses, I understand how upset you are. I connect with your heart. I connect with your concerns. And when we can connect with the boxwood's emotions and worries, we're in.
This sounds like an amazing book, and I'm really, really excited that you have written it, and now it's in the U.S., and that you have come to our show so that we can share it with our viewers. Thank you so much, Hettie.
It's a privilege for me. I look forward to seeing those tests come through as parents use the code that's in the book and determine what personality God has given their unique child.
Where can people find you online?
They can go to the website HettieBrittz.com or connect on Facebook at Hettie Brittz Author Speaker.
And would you mind spelling that?
I'm going to have to. It's Hettie, and then the Brittz is Brittz. So there are 4 T's, 2 in Hettie and 2 in Brittz.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeannie.
I know whom I have believed, and am persuaded